You probably all know the figure, although it's actually really hard to keep up with. Green Party membership is up this year since the 1st of January, 40%. 40%. And of course you probably also know that the Scottish Greens are actually far outstripping us, although from a rather smaller base. They actually have 3 times the membership numbers they had at the start of the European referendum. They've moved their conference venue to a place that's double the size, and I'm afraid if you were thinking of going, it's now too late because it's full and they can't possibly fit another person in. So it's very exciting times in Green Party politics. And you might have known that our conference was the biggest ever, and I think if you look at the sort of coverage of the announcements we made previewing our election manifesto, they were actually got more coverage than we've ever seen before. Now, probably most of you are well aware that we have put forward a proposal to say that the minimum wage should be £10 an hour by 2020. And I've learnt to have to really yell the second bit of that by 2020 because people always start applauding the £10. And, you know, if people tackle you on the doorstep or you run into Labour activists, do remind them that this isn't a bidding war. We said £10 in 2020, considerably before they offered £8 in 2020. And ours is also not just a number plucked out of the air. It's actually just simply an extension of what's been our long-term policy, which is to say that the minimum wage should be a living wage. Behind that is the principle that we assume that there's a minimum wage is a living wage now, and then we've allowed for a 3% increase year on year up to 2020. So it's basically offering people a chance of a guarantee of a living wage through the life of the next Parliament. And that's a really important principle that, you know, we just need to state and restate. And the other thing is the wealth tax, which has, I was actually at the Camden Bangladeshi Mela, the big annual party that the Camden Bangladeshi community have. And I was talking to a young man in shades so sharp, they practically cut him. I'm sure they were very stylish and a terribly important brand that I don't know. But I was talking to this young man, and first of all he stopped to take a Green Party leaflet, which I wouldn't necessarily have predicted. And I started talking to him, and I said various things, and then I said wealth tax. He said, right, I'm voting for you. And this is, you know, the kind of policies that reach out into places where we haven't always been able to reach before. And so, you know, saying the principle that we want to make, and it's really important to say that this isn't punitive, this isn't a penalty, this is saying that you've benefited from society, you continue to benefit from society, from the services, no matter how wealthy you are, and you should pay your fair share in return. Yeah. And so, one of the other things I said at a conference that also got less attention, I made a big thunderous bit. I sort of have bits in the speech that says, be thunderous here, you might have noticed them. One of my big thunderous bits was, David Cameron, you must go to the climate talks in New York. We didn't get much attention on this, but we can claim this one because he went to the climate talks. So, you know, these are really exciting times. There's huge opportunities and huge challenges for us. You mightn't have yet seen the poll in the Sunday Times this morning that puts us on exactly level with the Liberal Democrats. But, you know, we all still suffer from the frustration of saying to the BBC and others, we're there, that's where we are, give us some coverage, listen to us, talk to us. And, you know, it's important and it's really tricky because don't take it out on the BBC reporters or indeed the local newspaper reporters or whoever. They've got bosses, they're doing what their bosses tell them. What we need to do is really keep plugging away, keep talking to people on the doorstep, try and lift those polling figures. The independent polls put us on 6.6%. And if we could just knock that up a couple more percentage points, we'd be really getting to the point where the BBC won't be able to ignore us. So, you know, every person you talk to on the doorstep, every person you hand a leaflet to, every friend you just talk to when you're at work or in the pub or whatever, all of those things, they might be the next person the polling company calls. And so you might do the bit that helps us knock up that couple more percentage points. So there's huge potential there, there's huge opportunities and challenges. And of course we can also for a second look back, and I think we probably should for a second look back. I hear this morning that Darren officially announced that he wasn't going to re-stand for the London Assembly. And I think we have to look back and say thanks to all the people, Darren particularly among them, who built the foundations that we're now growing upon. So I would like to say, let's go for Darren. We're at a point where it's increasingly clear that the future of politics doesn't look like the past. All of the old rules are breaking apart. In Doncaster yesterday, I met one of our newer members up there, and they've gone from about 14 members to 44 in practically no time at all, and they've got a really strong local party that's growing in Doncaster, very much not a traditional kind of area. And one of our newer members there is a former coal miner. And he's a man who said, you know, you've got the positive solutions that this country needs, that Doncaster needs, that my community needs. And we've got a brilliant offer, whether it's you think about renationalising the railways. I think it's always worth telling people this, not just the majority of the public support the idea of bringing the railways back into public hands, but a majority of Tory voters support bringing the railways back into public hands. So we see all those headlines, Greens and their radical left-wing ideas. That would be the radical left-wing ideas of the majority of the British public. And if you think about, you know, an issue that I think is increasingly coming up on the doorstep, the NHS. And I actually walked the one leg of the People's March for the NHS, which retraced the route of the Jarrow March from Jarrow to London. I did Bedford for Luton because that happened to be the day I was free. That was the really scenic bit. But you know, I did Bedford for Luton. We walked 12 miles. I've just about got rid of the blisters that proved it. But what was really amazing and great to see was the amount of support we were getting from passing cars, people tooting in support, giving you thumbs up, slowing down and waving. And a lot of them were very unexpected kind of cars. They were the full range that you could think of cars on the road. So again, our principle of saying that the profit motive has no place in healthcare, that's a principle that the British public really gets, really understands and really appreciates. So we've got huge opportunities, huge challenges, and I think what we have to do is, I go back to where I started 2 and a bit years ago, you know, there's now more of us than ever before, but we still have to always keep thinking about working smart, rather than necessarily just thinking we've all got to work harder. Many of us who've been around a while have seen people who've just seen the challenge, seen it so enormous, and just slogged and slogged and slogged until they wore themselves down to the bone. Don't do that. It's a really bad idea. You know, work hard, get involved, but get other people involved too, and share the work around. Because it's as this new, much bigger team that we are, that we can really grow the Green Party and help create a new kind of politics. So I'll leave it there, and because I wanted to leave plenty of time for questions, because I always believe that dialogue's more interesting than monologue. And I'll also be around for an hour or two after this, so if anyone wants to grab me, I'll try and share my time around. But I want to say, you know, to London Fed, to all of you, whether you joined yesterday or have been around practically forever, well done. You know, we're going places fast. We can build a new kind of politics in London and in Britain. Thank you.